Hi friends, welcome to QApedia and this is our blog qapedia.com. Today the topic that we are going to cover is JavaScript tutorial, conditional expressions in JavaScript or conditional statements in JavaScript. And the subtopics that we will cover are conditional expressions in JavaScript, types of conditional expression, and those types are if, if else if, and else. Syntax and examples of conditional statements. Syntax of if statement. Example of if statement. Syntax of if else statement. Example of if else statement. Syntax of if else statement. And example of if else statement. And then the summary of the session. So let's start. Conditional expressions in JavaScript. In our last session, we had discussed about comparison operators, that they return true or false value, that is boolean values. Now we might get a question after that, what is the use of boolean values, what is the use of these true or false values? So one of the use of these boolean values is in conditional expressions or in conditional statements. Now we might get a question, what is conditional expression? So conditional expression or conditional statements are the expression that depends on boolean value for their execution. So this is the use of boolean value. Whenever the condition is true, the conditional expression gets executed, but when the condition is false, the conditional expression does not get executed. Now let's see types of conditional expression. If, if else, if if else. Now let's see syntax and examples of conditional statements. So let's see the syntax of if statement first. Syntax of if statement, and this is the syntax: if, condition, and then block of code. So this is how we will write conditional statement if statement. Now if you want to see example of if statement: if and then condition. Condition could be true or false. So suppose condition is true, and then inside the block we are printing console.log inside if block. Then in the second example, the condition can be false, and inside the block we are printing console.log inside if block. Now let's do one thing. Let's go to Visual Studio Code and then we will write our if statements there. This is our Visual Studio Code and we will write our code here. So let's write this first statement: if true, console.log inside if block. If true, and we'll write here console.log, and here we'll write inside if block. So that's it. Now let's save it, and after saving it, let's run it. Yeah, so we are getting one statement is getting printed inside if block. Now what if we make this condition as false? We made it false. Now save it, and after saving, let's run it. Now nothing is getting printed, right? So that means if the condition is true, our control comes inside this block and the statement gets printed inside if block. But if our condition is false, then nothing will get printed. Now let's do one thing. Let's take one more example. Let's declare a variable, and then based on that variable we'll pass some condition inside the if block. So let I is equals to 10 and we'll type here I is greater than 5. Now I is greater than 5, so it is true. Then what will happen? This statement will get printed. So let's save it and then let's run it. Inside if block, if suppose the value of I is less than 5, we are printing it here. So what is the value of I? 10. Is it less than 5? No, it is false. So because this condition is false, this particular statement will not get printed. So let's save it and then go to run without debugging, and then it is not printing. So that's how our if statement will work. Now let's see syntax of if else statement. So what is the syntax of if else statement? If, then condition, then block of code, then else, and then some block of code. So if true, which is our condition, and then we are writing here inside if block, else console.log inside else block. So this is how we'll write our if else statement. So let's write it here. We'll write here some condition. We'll write here if true, and then we'll write here else, and console dot log inside else block. So let's save it, let's run without debugging. So because our condition is true, then we'll get a statement printed inside if block. So because our if statement has been executed, so our control will not come to else statement. Okay, so this is how our if else statement works. Now let's see if our condition inside if statement is false. Else. Now let's save it, and after saving it, let's run it. So it is printing inside else block. So what happened? Our condition is false, so control will not come inside this. Control will directly go to else, and it will print the values. It will execute the code inside the else block, and inside else block the code is this one. We are printing this particular statement. Now let's execute this particular code based on this I. We'll write here I is greater than 5 inside if block. So let's save it and let's run it. So I is greater than 5. So yes, I value is 10. It is greater than 5. So if this condition is true, so control will come inside this particular block and it will print inside if block. Now because this if statement is executed, so control will not come inside this else block and directly come out. But if suppose we'll write it like this, if I is less than 5, then if we save it, then if we run it, then it is printing inside else block. So I less than 5, no, 10 is not less than 5, so this condition is false. It will not go inside this particular block, and it will directly come into this else block, and then it will print this particular value inside else block. So that's how if else statement works. Now let's see the third one, if else statement. So what is the syntax of that? Syntax for that is if condition block of code, else if condition block of code, then else, and then block of code. Okay, and let's see some example. If the condition is true, console.log print inside f block, and then because this particular statement has been printed, then these two statements will not be executed. Then if false, so if the condition is false, it will not come inside this, it will go here. Else if, it will check condition again. So here it is checking condition, it is true, so it will come inside this particular block and execute the code. Now because this particular block is executed, then else part will not be executed. But if suppose if condition is also false, else if condition is also false, then our else statement will be executed. Let's write the code for that. So here we'll write, we'll just copy it, copy. So else if, and here we'll write some condition, true, and here we'll write true. So now let's do one thing, let's run it, and let's first of all save it, and after saving it we will run it. So what is happening, it is printing inside if block. So if, else if, and else statement, which statement is getting executed, if statement is getting executed, because the condition inside if is true, so other two blocks are ignored. We are not executing that. Let's change the condition if false, and let's save it. After saving it, let's run it. So it is printing, sorry, inside else if block. So save and run. Yeah, inside else if block. Now what is happening? First of all, our control is checking this condition, is it is false, so it is not coming inside this, it is directly going to else if. Now in this else if block, it is checking the condition, it is true, so because it is true, it is coming inside this statement and it is printing. Now because else if is executed, then else will be ignored. What if we'll make this also false? Then what will happen? We'll just save it and then run, and now it is printing inside else block. So now what is happening? This if condition is false, it is ignoring it. Then else if condition is false, so it won't come, control will not come inside here, and only else part will be executed. So this is how conditional expressions will work in JavaScript. Now let's see the summary of today's session. So we have covered some topics in today's session. Those are conditional expressions, types of conditional expression, syntax of conditional expression, and then examples of conditional expression. So that's it in this session. Thank you very much, guys.